Hello, hello, everyone. This is Brenda from Stamplicity, and welcome to What's Up Wednesday. I have an echo going on here. Here, okay, there we go. And tonight we're going to play around with some masking, which is always a fun and favorite uh, product to play around with. And we're going to combine it with Visible Image, which I love their imagery, and it really makes it easy for masking with some of their designs. So we're going to learn how to layer things together to create a really cool layered look, but not have all the layers. It's just going to be one layer. All right. So we're going to do some ink blending. We're going to do some masking, some stamping, and just show you how to kind of put it all together. All right. So always a fun way of doing this. I am going to switch my cameras down so you can kind of see what we're going to be playing with. So nice colorful array of products here, right? All right, so let's start with, I'm going to be showing you some samples on how to use their paper pad. So they came out with this in their last release. So this is something kind of brand new for Visible Image. They never did papers before. But this is going to give you kind of that lovely kind of blended look, the kind of ink kissing technique look. So if you don't want to get into that messiness, this is a great option. All right, so I'm going to be playing around with this. I love the bright colors on here. And this is an 8x8 pad. It's called Tomorrow's Memories. All right, then we're going to be using this stamp set. Now, their Visible Image, you got to take a look on the website because they have some really fantastic stamp sets. But there's this one, and then we have another one on the website too with the compass. All right, I'm going to use the butterfly clock one, but these are lovely images, nice big images, and easy to cut out for masking, and you'll understand why. You've got some background stamps there to build up your background and some sentiments as well. So really fantastic set. So we're going to be playing around with this one. I also brought in a stencil. This was from their latest release, and I'm in love with this one. So I thought, yeah, maybe we'll play around with this. Maybe we'll break out some texture paste with it too. Who knows? We'll see what we're going to do with this. So we brought that one. And then I also brought in their tags because they have a package of mixed tags. And there's two different, no, there is one, two, there's 15 tags in total. All right. So you're going to get some white, black, and craft ones in the larger size, and then the same in the smaller size. All right. So we'll be working on the larger ones for one of our samples, but I wanted to show you those as well. Okay. Now, the big product we'll be using, of course, is the Spellbinders masking sheets. All right. Love this product. I've shown it many, many times. And I just don't, it doesn't get old, right? Like it's just a fantastic. So we're going to be using that. Now the Spellbinders masking sheets come in a pack of 12 sheets. All right. So it's going to last you for a little bit. So we're going to be using those. The rest of the product I'll go over. It'll mainly be inks and embossing powders, and maybe we'll bring out some pastes as well, like I said. So why don't we get started? And I really don't have a game plan right now, so we're just going to start creating, and let's do it. All right, so I'm going to start with the stamp set, and I'm going to start with the masking paper. So let's get our mask for this image ready to go. So I wanted to show you, normally I have the mask already done. I wanted to show you the process of what to do here to create your mask. All right. So I'm going to use my stamping platform. I'm going to grab a masking sheet. Okay. Now the masking sheet here will have one blank side, and then on the back side is the release sheet, and that's going to have the Spellbinders logo on it, so you know which is front and back. So you want to work on the front for obvious reasons. And we're going to take out that stamp. All right. Brand new stamps are always kind of a tricky thing to get off the first time. All right. Let's peel this off very gently. Okay. So we have our butterfly stamp. Now this is a brand new stamp, so I am going to condition it. I'm going to line it up on my masking paper here, and I just need enough area. I'm going to be cutting this out so I can get it kind of pushed right to the edge there. All right, so I'm going to get that stuck on there. And like I said, I am going to grab my conditioning eraser and I'm going to just rub that on here and just prep my stamp for, you know, stamping. Whenever I have a brand new stamp, I use my conditioning eraser. This is a product from Altenew, and it kind of takes off all the residue left over from the manufacturing process, and just a good habit to do with all. It just helps condition your stamp and get it ready for good stamping. Okay, so I'm going to make my mask. Now this one here, I'm going to stamp with archival ink. Why? Because it is a fast drying ink. I can definitely use my VersaFine Clair, but that is a slow drying ink. So chances are the ink will not be dry by the time I want to cut this out. And you know what will happen is Brenda's going to get inky fingers. So we want something that's going to dry fairly quickly. So I'm using my archival ink. Now I don't think, well maybe, I was going to say, I don't think this is really inked up. I thought it was a little dry, but I think I might be okay. The whole image when you stamp on your masking paper, I mean, it does not need to be absolutely perfect. We just want that outline. All right. So, all right, that looks pretty darn good. And I'm going to get my stamping tool just so I can add a little bit of pressure on there. All right, see, I knew it was dry. I knew it was dry. We're going to go ahead and stamp that again. I just need to tidy it up around here. It's not, again, we don't need to have this perfect, but I do need to have that kind of outside edge. So with the beauty of having a stamp platform, I'm able to just kind of line it back up. Okay. All right. So that's okay now. And I'm going to put on my list to get an archival ink re-inker. All right. So that is good. I have the outside edge now that I'm going to be able to trim out. I'm just going to leave that in there for now. We're going to come back to that stamp. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to trim this out. Now, when you trim this out, I'm not going to worry about these little pieces here. I just want this outside, or the larger element here, which is the clock with the butterfly wing. And when I cut it, I'm going to cut like right on the black line. All right. Not on the outside of the black line, but right on the black line. So I'm kind of almost cutting that thick black line in half. All right. So this is what I love about the visible images is that they are easy to cut. All right. Even though they got a lot of detail on them, the outside edges always seems to be fairly simple to cut out. So to create a mask is easy to do. Okay. All right. So let's just continue on. There is a little crack in there, and I'm going to cut that out in a bit. I just want to get the outside here. And just about done. All right, so there's my mask. I'm just going to go into this little crack. This is probably the hardest cutting on this image. All right. There we go. All right, so that's trimmed out. All right, I'm just going to put this rest of this masking sheet back into my package because there's still good real estate on there for another project. Okay, so we have that done. I got to get on my chair here. It's rolling away from me. Okay, mask is done. And now let's start with a tag. And we're just going to start with a white tag. Now, I have never used these before. So they are 300 GSM, so they have a nice weight to them. They have the reinforcer on there, which is really nice. So and they feel like a good quality paper, so which is awesome. So that you're going to accept the blending really, really nicely. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to stamp this lovely image um, on here. All right, so I'm going to kind of concentrate in the center. I'll probably still come back so I can put one of the sentiments on the top or the bottom here, but we're going to go ahead and stamp this. All right, so for this here, I'm going to use my VersaFine Clair because my archival ink is not so wonderful, but we're going to have to heat set it then. All right, so I'm going to grab this and we're going to center it. I'm going to make sure my 12 and 6 are kind of up and down. All right, that is just going to fit on there. All right, let's go for it. All right, so let's go ahead and ink this. I'm going to go take my VersaFine Clair. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that tag is right into that corner. I'm going to leave my stamp in the press here because after I do all my inking and all that, if I want to go back and stamp it again, I will be able to do that because nothing has moved. All right. I sometimes will do that when I'm doing, a stamp and then inking, and then I'll go back and stamp over top of it just to really crisp up that black. So I never remove my stamp right away, just for the off chance I do want to restamp it. All right. So this pad is really nice and juicy. I know I'm going to get a nice stamped image from this one. I always keep my VersaFine Clair inked up. All right, so and beautiful. I'm going to go over it one more time. There's just a few spots in the center. I want to get just a little bit more pressure on there. Like I said, I'll probably end up going back and stamping it afterwards, but in case I don't, I'm going to do it now. All right, so that should be good now. Oh, beautiful. Look at that. That is stunning. All right, so I'm just going to put that to the side, and I'm just going to grab another piece of cardstock. And I am going to stamp this image again. And the reason why is because I want another butterfly wing. So that will be okay. So this one here, I just want that butterfly wing. We're going to pop it up. We're going to cut it out and have it an elevated wing on there. So I'm just let's move the magnet. So I'm not too worried about the clock. And I'm going to just ink that one more time. Beautiful. Okay, leaving the stamp in there. Like I said, I just don't want to remove that in case I want to re-ink. So I'm just going to leave that in there and put that to the side. Okay, we're going to zap these two with a heat tool to dry that ink because we are going to do some ink blending. I want this ink to be dry for the mask to actually stick on. So bear with me as I dry these. All right, that should be good. I probably did it a little bit more than I needed to, but I want to make sure that was good and dry. Okay, I'm going to now start with my mask on the tag. All right. All right, so you're going to take your mask now and you are going to peel off the backings. And this is where I struggle with these type of things, especially on live camera. It normally is not as difficult as I show you, but my fingers never want to work when we're live. So I just kind of flick the back until I get it started. And then I'm going to grab my tweezers, I think. I'm not going to struggle. And then I can pick that. There we go. Okay. So you're going to take the release off. Now I will keep the release sheet sometimes. So I'm just going to put it to the side. Usually I will stick this mask right on the stamp set, so because you can reuse these. All right, so very carefully you're going to take that release sheet off, and now you're going to line this up with the image. And it should fit within the black lines because we cut right on the black line. So, sorry, I'm going to pull it off so that you probably can't see it on the camera because I want to make sure that this is right on. All right, it looks good. All right, and now I'm going to burnish it. So now we've covered that with our mask. All right, so our stamped image is now covered with our mask, and it's a low tack. All right, so we want to make sure all the edges are down. All right, now we're going to have a little fun with ink blending. All right, so I think I want to do a nice kind of blue background with this one. All right, so I have a couple of, or 3 different blues here. Oops, let's put them up the right way so you can read the names. I have Salty Ocean, Mermaid Lagoon, and Uncharted Mariner. All right, I thought that was a nice kind of array of blues. So we're going to do kind of a tone-on-tone blending here, and we're going to do the background. All right, so, oh, I didn't grab my brush. I grabbed the wrong one. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to start with Salty Ocean. I always start with my lightest. And we're going to do some blending on here. So because I'm doing a background, I have my larger blending brush. So that is my preference. And when I do blending of a black background, when I pick up the ink, I really kind of get my brush in there. The dabbing, you're not going to pick enough ink. All right. So these ink pads are made to take the abuse. So really kind of get your brush in there. And then when I do this, I start off the page and I do in rotating motions. All right. So I'm going to start off the page, rotating motions. And when I do rotating motions, I go clockwise and counterclockwise. And I just build up my color. All right, so I'm just going to go around this whole thing with Salty Ocean. I want darker tones and lighter tones in there. I'm going to reapply ink as needed. All right, and I always start off the paper, and I try to stop off the paper as well. I tend to forget that, but the reason why I do that is because you have so much ink on there. You don't want to place it right on there because sometimes you get the hard marks of the ends of the brushes. Not so much I find with these pink fresh ones, but some of the other brushes you will get that and then they're hard to blend out. So if you always remember to start on and off your paper, you're not going to get those brush marks, okay? All right, so you can see I'm going right over top of that mask. And I don't want no white space because what's going to happen, the spot underneath our mask is going to remain white. So you're really going to have that nice contrast. So that's my first color there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my, doesn't really matter because we're using tone on tone, but I'm going to just clean that up as I go. Okay, we're going to go into our second color, which is Mermaid Lagoon. All right, and again, I'm not going to worry about changing my brushes. This is all the same color tone. So again, I'm going to load up my brush. And now I'm going to now add some of this color and really kind of build up the intensity in some areas of this blue. I still want lighter and darker tones here. All right, so there is our Mermaid Lagoon. So now you can see we have some lighter tones in there and we have some darker tones in there, but it's all tone on tone, so it's looking really, really nice. Okay, we're gonna go up to now Uncharted Mariner. This is quite the dark color, so I'm gonna be kind of gentle with this one. I'm gonna load up my brush. And let's add some darker tone in here. All right, so now you can see that darker tone. All right. I think I am happy with that, although I think I might go in with a little bit of Mermaid Lagoon. Sorry, I know I'm shaking the camera. All right, so let's go and grab some more of that Mermaid Lagoon. And let's just add just a tad here and there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. We're gonna keep our mask on, because in this stamp set is some background stamps, or one background stamp, which is this ledger kind of ticketed, I don't know what you want to call it, but there's that. All right, we got this. Sorry, I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So, give me 1 second. All right, we are good. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Whew. I always forget to put the Do Not Disturb on there when I'm doing a live video. And when you get a phone call, it blackouts your screen. Okay, so anyways, as I was saying, there is this lovely background stamp here. So with background stamps, we just want them kind of tucked in or kind of peeking here and there. So I don't typically use a stamp block or my stamping platform for this. I use my fingers, all right? So I will just make sure I have this going the right way. I don't know if there is a right way or a wrong way on this one. Let me just double check. Yeah, I think this is the right way. And then, so I'm going to ink it up, and then I'm just going to kind of stamp on there, and whatever I get is what I get. All right. So here we go. So I am using my VersaFine Clair. And again, when I'm inking this, I'm just, whatever I get for ink, I get for ink. All right. If it's not inked all the way, because it's a cling stamp, it's going to hold really well to my fingers. All right, and here we go. Okay, so all right, so that is what I want, and then I will do another one, and I'm not going to re-ink. All right, so we're just getting now, it kind of just fades away. So I'm going to do that again. It's stuck to my fingers really nicely, so I'm just going to dab into my ink pad, and then I'm going to go here, and then I'm going to go up a little bit here just to get that second fade, and maybe just a little bit this way. Okay, that is it. All right, so now I'm going to clean my stamp. And I could have done this with one of the blue inks just to do a tone on tone. I would have done the darker ink or used maybe a VersaFine Clair in the darker ink as well. All right, so now we have that as well, which is pretty cool. All right. What else do I want to do before I pull that off? Anything else? I don't want to do texture paste. I'm going to do texture paste on another one. I want to make sure. All right, I'm going to leave that one be. And now I'm going to come to this one here. This was our second stamp that we did because I want to cut the wing out of this one. So this one here, I'm just going to do an ink blend right over top of this. And I'm going to do orange, all right? So I think that'll be a nice contrast, the white and the blue and the orange. So I have Rusty Hinge and Crackling Campfire, and then I have a little bit of brown here too if we want to use the brown. So all right, so Rusty Hinge. I'm going to load this up. And this one here, I'm just going to do a light kind of blend over top. All right, just to get that initial color down. And this one we're cutting out anyways, so I don't have to worry about starting on the paper and ending. All right, so there is our kind of our first color. And now I'm going to go in with Crackling Campfire. Now this is a color I never use, so it's very nice. It's quite, I went a little too intense. I'm going to bring that color more into the center and let it fade out. All right, so that I'm happy with. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this back into my platform, and I'm going to re-stamp it just to make that black really, really crisp. All right. So let me just show this. All right. So there's my, it's fine, but there's a layer of color on the black. All right. So it's really kind of, I don't want to say it's faded, but it's in the background. You can tell. So by doing the stamping again, you're going to bring that black kind of to the top now. All right, so let me just go ahead. And because we didn't move our stamp, our paper's in the right in the corner, everything will line up. All right, so. And there we go. Now that black, you can tell it's sitting on top of the color. All right. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to heat set this, and we're going to trim this out, okay? The reason we want to heat set it is because that black ink is still wet. The distress ink is still wet, so we want to make sure it's dry so I don't smear any of the colors. I don't get the colors all over my hands, even though I got glue everywhere. All right, I'm going to let that cool. And while that is cooling, before I start cutting it, I am going to grab this guy here, and we're going to hit the edges with a little bit of brown now. All right, so I have gathered twigs, and I'm just going to muddy up the edges ever so slightly. Now, if you wanted that brown to show up a little bit more, I would switch blending tools. I would go with maybe wooden handle with an ink dauber, but I just wanted to muddy it up just a little bit. I brought that brown kind of into those white spaces there too, just to muddy it up. All right, so I am happy with that. Okay, let's go ahead and cut out our wings now. Just clean up my mess here. Okay. So for this, I just want the wings, all right? So let's just go ahead. And this one here, I'm going to cut right on the edge of the black. And I went quiet because I'm really concentrating. Sorry, everyone. Oh, I do that all the time. You forget that you're on live, you know? All right. Easy peasy to cut out. Now I'm going to give you a little tip. When you ever do a cutting of something that's been inked, it's got a black edge on there. This is a little pet peeve of mine because my paper was white. My edging there is white. All right. So what I like to do is take either an alcohol ink marker. This is a paint pen. All right. And because it's got more of a brush tip on there, what I will do now is I will just go over the edge, and it just camouflages that white edge. And it also camouflages if you did not get right up to the edge when you were cutting and you still have a little white space, this is going to help cover it. All right. So just a little tip. Now just remember that ink may not be completely dry that you're putting on the edge. So, and you have to be careful because you don't want to accidentally muck up your front of your image like I did on the back. You don't want to do that in the front. All right. So, all right. So now all my white edges are covered and that makes me happy. Happy, happy. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray my hands with water and just clean them up as best I can because I'm going to take that mask off next. And we're going to have that lovely white image be underneath it. And I don't want to mess it up with my inky hands. Okay. So to lift up your mask, you don't need much. If you have fingernails, you can do that. I'm going to just use my tweezer, and my tweezers have a really point on there. So I'm just going to gently peel that off, and we can go all ooh and ah right now because this looks freaking amazing. All right, take a look at that. Oh my gosh, right? So, I mean, it's got the look that there's a layer of white on top, but we didn't add a layer, right? We did this all on a flat surface, and we gave it its own dimension. All right, just using that masking, which is awesome. Okay, I think I'm okay with the black on here. It's fine. What I want to do is stamp my sentiment. All right, so I'm happy with the how the butterfly is. If I wanted to, I could definitely go in and stamp because remember we haven't removed our stamp yet. But I'm happy with it. So I'm going to take this off now. We'll come back to that. And now I want to get my sentiment stamped on here. All right. So before we put our wings on, where is my other magnet? All right. Okay, so we are all a little fragile. We could do that, or butterflies count in moments. I think we are all a little fragile is what I'm going to use because it is a bold sentiment. So it should stamp nicely on. Or do I, you know what? I'm going to stamp this on white paper. Not even going to stamp it on here. The reason I'm saying that is because I don't want to get it mixed up with the backing there. So I think we're okay if I use the back of this. Sorry, changed my mind there. I'm allowed to. Okay, and then we're just gonna fussy cut these ones out. Okay. Again, these are brand new stamps, so I'm going to use my conditioning eraser, go right over top. Okay. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, that turned out really well. All right, look at that. It actually looks like one of those little labelers, the old school labelers. Remember those? All right, I'm just going to move that to the side. I'll come back to those stamps in a second. I'm going to zap this with the heat tool because I am going to fussy cut this out. And again, that's a slow drying ink. So okay, let's fussy cut those out. And I'm choosing not to leave any white border on there. I'm cutting right up to the black edge. And I think what I'll do is I'll grab my paint pen again. And like I said, you can use anything that's black. It's got a brush tip. If you have Olos or Copics, that will do as well. Some of you already have the Memento markers as well. Anything that is a black marker with a brush tip so that you can use the side of your tip to outline. All right, so let me grab that again. And that just camouflages that white edge or any miscutting that I may have done. It's just a small thing, but sometimes those small things are the big things, right? Okay, I think I'll just leave this on my desk because I keep on using it. All right, so let's put this all together now. So I'm going to grab my butterfly wing and take a look at this. Look at the pop of color now that we are getting on there. Now I could have cut another mask, and we could have had the first mask, and then I could have cut the second mask just with the clock so that just the butterfly wing was exposed and there would be no other layer. All right, we could have done that. But because I wanted to add a little bit of dimension here, I wanted this to be more of a fluttery look. I did that second wing on a cardstock. I'm going to give it some shape. So I'm going to grab my bone folder, and I'm just going to give it a little bit, those wings, a little bit of curl. I'm just kind of like, I have an old school bone folder that's got the tapered edge, and I hold it just like if I was curling ribbon, and just kind of put it on my cardstock like that. All right, and then this is the part that's going to be adhered. All right, so now we're just going to line this up and adhere that, and I might put a few foam adhesives just behind it. There goes my tape runner. All right, so I'm going to just put a little bit of glue here, and then I'm just going to grab my foam adhesives, and I'm just going to put just a couple on there just to tack it down. All right. All right, so we're just going to line that up. And look how pretty that is. And then we're going to do this. And I think I'm going to pop these ones up. So let me see if I can get my strips here. Uh-oh, I lost my tweezers. This is not a good thing. Oh no, oh no. Okay, I don't want to freak my freak, but all right, so I'm looking for my tweezers. I had the top one at a bit of an angle, but now I want to straighten it up. All right, so there's that. And I think the last thing I'm going to do on this is I'm going to splatter this with some white paint. All right. Now, I'm going to go grab that. Oh, where is my white paint? Okay, so I'm not going to splatter with my white paint because I don't know where my white paint is. All right, well, I will do that off camera. I will find my white paint. It's not where it's supposed to be, and I'll splatter that. But how fun is that? Really, really done. Really, really cool. Now, you could do that same concept on a card front. All right, I just chose to use the tags. I just think those tags are fun. I can definitely make this into a card as well. All right, let's move on. I'm going to put that to the side. And let's do another one with masking. And let's do a card front this time. Okay, so what do I want to do here? I think we'll do some texture paste on here. I want to show you how to do it with texture paste as well. So let's grab our stamp platform again. And this one here, I'm going to actually do a blended background first. All right, and then we'll do the masking. All right, so now the first one we did on white, kept that white. This one we're going to do just a basic background, then we'll mask and then deepen up our background and go from there. So I am going to, let's do kind of a yellowy background with this one. So again, I have two different color yellows. I want some lighter tones, darker tones. So I have scattered straw and fossilized amber. So I'm going to start with my scattered straw. And we're going to do this entire panel. Now our background, we're going to create, use complementary colors with this, so it kind of blends on top. And we're just going to keep on adding. All right. So that's my first color. And then I'm going to go in with fossilized amber and just deepen it up here and there. Okay. Don't need it absolutely perfect. Sorry, I was kind of off camera there. I love fossilized amber. I love the color of this one. Nice mustardy color. All right, so we have that. I'm going to go back to my scattered straw and just help those blended edges there. And I'm also going to do some water splatters on here. Okay, so I'm going to do some water splatters on here, and then we're going to dry the, oop, I want some big water splatters. There we go. All right, so when you do a distress ink, all right, we know they're water reactive, all right. When you go ahead and splatter it with water, let the water kind of mellow there and let it do its thing. Then you can take a paper towel and kind of wipe up those spots if you need to. Mine, I didn't have big spots. And then you want to dry it, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. And you want it to be good and dry because we're going to stamp next on this. And then we are going to put our mask on. So we want everything to be dry. And as you dry, those water spots will be more intense. Okay, so I'm going to bring that up to camera so you can see all my water spots. Look how lovely that is. Love it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and stamp our butterfly. So again, I'm going to make sure my panel is right up to that corner. And then I'm going to grab this. And this one I'm going to push a little bit to the top. Oops, let's get our 12 and 6 lined up properly, because I'm going to have room for my sentiment underneath there. All right, so that looks good. All right, I'm going to hold that down with another magnet, I think. Okay, let's go ahead and ink this. So I'm going to do that with my VersaFine Clair. And let's stamp that. And I'm going to go over it again. We want to intensify that black. Beautiful. Gonna leave my stamp in here in case I come back and I want to stamp it again. All right, so we have that on there. I am going to just zap this with the heat tool to dry that VersaFine Clair so that our mask will stick on. All right, so. Now, if you were using archival ink on here and your ink pad was much more juicier than mine, you could use archival here. You wouldn't need to heat set, but because VersaFine Clair is a slow drying ink, that is why I need to heat set it. And I'm going to leave that handy because I know I'm going to need it again. All right, so there is that. You can see that the ink spot or the water spots are still coming through, which is lovely. All right, we're going to grab our mask. All right, so this is reusable. All right, I know it's got ink on there, but it's still going to mask. All right, so again, you're going to put this on. All right, once you have it on, give it a good burnish. And make sure all those edges are down. All right, so they're down. So what's underneath here is going to remain yellow, all right, in that mustardy color. And now we're going to deepen up the background here, right? So I'm going to go in with a little bit of dried marigold, and then we're going to go into maybe some browns as well. I need an orange. My other one has Crackling Campfire on it, which is a pretty intense orange, and I don't want that intense. So just need to switch out my brush here. So, all right. So again, we're going to start off, and I'm just going to add a little bit here and there. This is going more brown. I think I probably used brown with this brush at one point. And what's cool is that the water spots that we have are, you're going to still see them, but now they're going to be coated with that orange, all right? So all right, I'm not loving this brush. All right, I'm going to use what's on here. Okay, so there is the orange on there, which looks lovely. I'm going to go in with a little bit of Rusty Hinge now. And now I'm going to go in with a little bit of brown. So these are all colors that are working with the yellow. Okay, now I'm going to, we're not going to use this stamp this time. I think I'm going to bring in that stencil. No, I'm going to go with the stamp first and then bring in the stencil. So let me grab this stencil. And I think I'm just going to use brown ink on this one. So I'm just going to use my Distress ink on this. So this is going to be very subtle in the background. I'm not a big fan of stamping with Distress ink, but for this kind of background stuff, it works fine. All right. So again, I'm just want little bits and pieces of this. Perfect. All right. And I'll bring this up to the camera. All right, I think I'm good. All right, so let me just pull it up to camera so you can see that it's just in the background. Okay, now we're going to use the stencil. So because I'm using the stencil and I'm going to be using stencil paste, it's going to get on the mask. So after this one, you may want to throw the mask out. All right. But that's completely up to you. So I'm just going to, and again, when I do this on there, I just want it here and there. I want to leave enough area here to put my sentiment, oh, sorry, off camera again, put my sentiment here. So I'm really going to concentrate around that kind of mask. So what do I have for stencil paste? I wasn't planning on this, so let me grab my bucket of stencil paste and transparent gloss. No, not sparkle. Do we want grit paste? That's Snowfall. Don't think so. Crackle paste transparent. No. Opaque matte. I think that's what I want. I don't think I have. The rest is lunar paste, which I don't think I want to do lunar paste. All right, let's do. I have to get these all back in there. Oh, they're going to fall down now. Okay. Okay, so let's show you a kind of a cool technique with opaque texture matte paste. I need a palette knife. Oh my goodness, I got the dropsies. Okay, so you can change the color of opaque texture paste, all right? So this is a matte finish. This is from Ranger. They have great texture paste here, so let me just move this out of the way. So we can change the color of this, and we can add ink, we can add paint to it. Re-inkers are awesome to use. But because I don't have my re-inkers handy and I'm not going to go searching for them, I've done that enough this evening. I'm just going to use ink. All right. So I guess I should have not cleaned that ink off. All right. So I am going to just add a big smush of brown ink here. Now, the texture paste is white. It is opaque. So your texture paste will not be as dark as what's there. I'm just going to grab that much. All right, so let's mix this in now. And you can see we are changing the color of the texture paste. All right, so you want to just keep on mixing until it's pretty much, you know, changed color. You obviously are not going to put this back in the jar, but now we've made brown texture paste. All right, now if you wanted to deepen that up, I'm going to pick this up and just clean that off. And you can put a little bit more ink down. And then you can mix this in there again, and it will deepen it up. So when you do this for your project, you want to make sure you always have enough that first time, because you'll never get the same color as you mix it again. All right, so that's a nice brown. All right, and I'm going to add a little bit of Rusty Hinge into there. Okay, so let me just clean this up. All right. All right, so now we've created this beautiful kind of orangey brown texture paste. Clean this up. And now we can stick this through our stencil. And now we've just kind of used the colors that are in on our panel here that we've been using, and it's all going to coordinate. So I'm just going to really concentrate here and there, and it's just going to be random. Okay, so I always like to do 3 areas. All right, so that's 1, 2, and let's do one kind of here. Remember, we still want to put our sentiment. Might put a little bit here. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to pull this up and look at that. It's beautiful. All right, so this texture paste is done. I am actually going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to clean off my stencil. I don't want to waste this texture paste. So grabbing another panel, and let's just smear that on and create a background. All right, so there, I created a lovely background. I'm going to leave that be, and now I'm going to go ahead and clean this. It's really important to clean your stencils and tools after using stencil paste, because once this stuff dries, it's on there basically forever. You can use rubbing alcohol, all right, but it's best to clean it right away. I should be like Michelle and have a stencil bath right beside me. But I don't use stencils that often, and I should, because they're pretty awesome to use. All right, so I'm just going to grab another cloth and lay that flat and do my final cleaning. All right, nice and clean. All right, so that can now dry. I'll put that over there. And actually, I need to dry this a little bit better. Okay, so this is still wet. Oh, I should show you though how wonderful that did. Look at that stencil paste. So cool. All right, so this needs to dry, and it won't take that long to dry, but I want to be able to peel this off right now, because I don't want the stencil paste to be kind of stuck in that, you know, on partial mask and all that. And when I rip it off, it doesn't rip off nicely. So All right, I'm gonna put that there. And now you can see how beautiful that is. Again, we haven't added any more texture than the texture paste, all right? But we look like we have lots of layers on there, all right? So we're gonna allow that to dry. I just want to admire my work. All right, we're gonna let that dry. And then now we're gonna move on to that pattern paper, all right? I wanna show you some fun little things that you can do with that. So we're gonna let that dry. So I'm gonna put that to the side here. And my background here, I'm gonna put that over here. And let's grab our pattern paper. I really wanna show you this one. This stuff is pretty awesome. Let me just tidy up a little bit. I got a lot going on the screen here. All right, I think that's a little bit better. Oh, there's my tweezers, yay. Okay. So let's take a look at this one from Visible Image. And look at the papers. They're just awesome, right? So you see, you get that kind of inky goodness that I kind of showed you with those ink blends, and just a little extras on there, right? So which is really, really, really cool. All right. So if you don't want to get into that inky mess, this is a great way of using this. So I'm going to pick, which one do I want? I really like this blue, so I'm going to pick one of these. And I wanted to show you how quick and simple it is to create a card just with that pattern paper like this with that stamp. All right, so we're not going to really do any masking with this one, but I wanted to show you just if you didn't want to go into all that layers and all that mess, what else you can do. All right, so all right, let's cut this paper. Yeah, I tidy everything up and I put everything on the paper trimmer. Good one, Brenda, good one. Okay, let's trim this down to, I want a 4 by 5 1/4. All right, I love the fact that we've got this on there. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stamp our butterfly image. And I'm just going to leave my stamp where it is. No, I'm not. I have to move it because I trimmed this a little bit shorter. So I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to have it off the edge here. Sorry, I'm thinking. All right, off the edge. I know it's upside down, but okay. Now we're going to emboss this with clear embossing powder, right? So we're going to get that lovely shine of it. And we're going to go ahead and use VersaFine Clair for this because it is a slow drying pigment ink. So the ink will have the powder will have enough time to adhere to it. So let's go ahead, ink this up. And I'll probably ink it one more time just to make sure that everything is coated. That stamped really, really good though. Just see a little bit edge on my butterfly wing. Okay. All right, so we have this, and that looks beautiful on there, but we're going to add a little bit of texture now with the embossing powder. So I'm just using clear embossing powder, and I'm just going to sprinkle this on top. All right, so that is nicely coated. And let's heat this up. I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot toot. Oh my gosh. This really embossed beautifully. All right, so let's see if the camera can pick that up. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Absolutely stunning. I love it. Okay, so there is that. And now I think I'm just going to put a little simple sentiment on here. And you know what? I think let's do a little bit of watercoloring on here. Why not? All right. So because we've embossed it, we've kind of brought up the edge of our stamped image here. So these become little walls, as I call them. So to color in is really easy. We could definitely do, I wonder if I should do Olo markers. Let's do Olo markers. Or maybe we'll just do it twice and then we'll show you both. All right, so let's grab our alcohol ink markers just because we can. And let's go ahead and do a little bit of coloring here. All right. Orange 2.2. All right. So I have a couple of oranges here in the same color tones. So of course, this first one is going to be a light color, so not showing, but I'm going to build up my color here on this butterfly. And I'm going to worry about my blending in a second. Right now, I'm just getting that first initial color down. All right, so now I'm just going to kind of blend those colors together. This, of course, is not the best paper to get perfect blends with Olo markers, but we'll get some kind of blend. All right, I think I'm happy with that. And then I am going to go in not with that color. I want more of a black color. All right, I'm not absolutely loving, there must be a coating on this paper because it's almost like sitting on top. So I'm not loving the Olo markers on this paper, just saying. All right, so I'm just going in and, so maybe watercolor might have been the better way, but sorry, I've never used this paper, so. Anyways, I'm going to go in. All right, we've colored that. It's not bad. All right, but there is that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do the same one. I'm going to pick another pattern paper from this. And we're going to do embossing again and watercolor in, and let's see if it works that way. All right, so I think I want to use the yellow this time. Ooh, this one's fun. I like the back side of this one. This green and yellow. Okay, so again, I'm going to trim this to a 4 by 5 1/4. All right, let's go ahead and stamp this. My stamp is still in this right place, so we will just do the same thing. Actually, now that my marker's dried, it doesn't look so bad. All right, I need to stamp that again because I totally missed the one-sided numbers there. So all right. Embossing powder. And I think that's why the embossing turned out so well on here, because it must have a little bit of coating on this paper. And so the ink sat nicely on top of the paper to get that real glossiness, which is pretty awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and heat set this. That even looks, this is going to look stunning on there. And this is a cool thing about pattern papers. I mean, you can create that same effect with distress inks, that kind of drippy look, but having a paper makes it so much easier. You can tell people you did the inking. Just saying. Look how dramatic that looks. That is just amazing. Look at that. Again, beautiful embossing on there. Love it. Okay, so this is now, it's dry. It's kind of cool. All right. So I'm going to just come back to this one. Let's go ahead and do some watercoloring with this. All right. So I have a water brush here that is empty. So I'm just going to fill it up. Okay. So you can, with watercolor, distress inks, you can watercolor with. Really kind of simple way of doing it. All right, I think we want to add that orange. Do we want orange? I'm going to go fossilized amber. Let's keep the color palette kind of the same on this one. All right, so sometimes when I'm doing ink blending, I will have ink kind of into my lid, and then I can just pick up that. But the fossilized amber, I don't. So I just put a little bit on my craft mat here, and I'm just going to take my water brush here. Let's get it going here with water, and pick some up. All right, I want to dilute it a little bit. I want it kind of not so intense. And now I can go in and add. And that embossing is going to resist. So it's going to be keeping everything kind of in. So you can have nice wells of inky water in there. And it will dry with that kind of distress kind of look. All right, so I'm going to bring this up to the camera, and you'll see I have kind of inky wells of inky goodness there. All right, and that will dry, and then you'll have different tones. So I'm going to fill. And this is easy because I'm just going right over top of the embossing, and it's just letting that inky goodness kind of drop in onto the paper. Oopsie, I just colored in part of the clock, thinking it was the butterfly wing. I will say I like this effect a little bit better than the alcohol ink markers. It's really cool. There's some type of coating on the paper, which is actually really, really cool. All right, so there is my butterfly. Look how awesome that is. All right, we're going to let that dry. So pretty. I'm actually going to just maybe do a little bit of splatters. I don't want to waste this ink. And everything just looks like you created it yourself. All right, so starting with that background paper is kind of a nice way. It gives you a base. All right. I'm going to let this dry, and let's go back to this one. What am I doing on time? I better get going here. All right, let's bring back our stencil. I want to bring in some stencil-y action going on. So I am going to just place my stencil, and I think I'm just going to use my whatever's left over on my blue brush here. And I'm just going to go kind of around our image here. And you can just see it ever so slightly. I'm going to press a little bit harder. All right, so we've just added some texture in there. It's really hard to see, but it's there. All right, I'm going to do a little bit more. There we go. All right, so it just gives it a little bit of texture. Let's add a sentiment now. And again, the sentiment I am going to emboss just to keep things consistent. So I'm going to do the butterflies count in moments. Uh-oh, I have inky fingers. Oh no. Oh no. Inky fingerprints. Let's see if I can. Okay. I'm going to condition that stamp real quickly because I have not used it. And let's go ahead and ink this. All right, I'm good with that. Uh-oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to dry my distress ink. So we use this as a teachable moment. So when anything you apply wet, you should always dry in between before you do your next step, which I forgot to do. And now I have embossing powder everywhere because it's sticking to the distress ink that I put through the stencil. So I need to clean up a little bit here. All right, that's the best I can do. I'm not going to worry about it too much but I just knocked off some. So now I have to go back in. Oh my gosh. It's because I'm rushing. I saw the time and how long I've been on. All right, let's just go with it. You know what? I'm going to just be consistent and I'm going to add a little bit of embossing on top here. And see what I mean? You can see all that on there. So we're just going to make it work with us. That's all. That is all. Okay. So that may have been a mistake, but not really. It actually worked out to my advantage. All right. So my sentiment came up really, really nice. All right. But whatever we used with the distress ink, the clear embossing powder hung on to that, and now we got even more texture in the background. So it actually worked out to my advantage there. All right. So that turned out pretty awesome. I'm going to mount that on a black cardstock or card front, and then that one will be done. All right. And then this one here. I'm going to wait for that to, no, I think I'll be okay. I'm going to wait for that to dry before I put my stamped image or sentiment on there because I want to emboss that as well. And that one will be done. And I'll put that on black as well. So you can see that watercolor, how that worked in there. It looked really awesome. And then I'm going to bring in my other ones here just so that you can see them all. All right, so those are the two with the pattern paper, if you don't want to get into the inky mess. All right. And then we have our this one here. I will stamp a sentiment on there. I just want to make sure that stencil paste is completely dry. All right. And then I might actually even go in and watercolor a little bit of that butterfly as well. I think it needs a little bit more to pop out. And then we have our first one, which I think is my personal favorite. I love this green and yellow one, but I really love this one, our tag. All right, so a little bit of masking, a little bit of inking, a little bit of regular pattern paper, and then how to create a texture and layers with minimal products. All right, so that is it for tonight for What's Up Wednesday. Thanks for sticking along. This one went on a little bit longer than normal, but I think they're very effective cards. All right, all of this is available on our website, the pattern paper, the stamp set, the stencil, masking paper. And if there's any questions whatsoever, just drop us a line and we will help you out. I'll take pictures of all my finished samples and we'll post them tomorrow on our Facebook page. All right, everyone, have yourself a wonderful night. I hope you enjoyed. There we go. Hope you enjoyed this evening's What's Up Wednesday. Until next Wednesday, we'll talk to you soon. Bye.